implement, and having those candid conversations and making them more successful as they enter the organization would be how I might look at that. But it's tough. It's tough. Okay, so final topic, which is new from yesterday. How do we shine a bright spot along the way? Again, this is a theory from the book called Switch. And this is all around measurement and how do you share successes and how do you know you're being successful. So I'm a real big proponent of measuring so that you can demonstrate things are either going well or even more importantly, if they're not going well. How do you know they're not going well? So I try to make it really simple, again, kind of against some sort of change curve in the process of change. How do you know if employees are ready for said change, right? For implementing lean processes, for having some of the business outsourced, for having a new IT system. How do you know they're ready? Consequently, day one, week one, month one, how do you know they're adopting? How do you know that they're changing in the way that you need them to change for that project to ultimately be successful? And then finally, how do you measure outcomes? What are the outcomes that you would hope to achieve? So kind of really breaking it up into three sort of time components, right? What do I need to be conscientious of before we kind of implement something new around readiness? What do I need to be highly conscientious of as we deploy something new? What data should I be looking at? And then finally, maybe 6 months, a year down the path, how do we define success? This particular list of what to measure comes from that best practices survey. That's every other year, the one I showed you before from ProSci. So they've got some thoughts and ideas around how to measure effectiveness and reporting on change. So this should give you some ideas as we think through the concept of readiness, adoption, and success. So how do you measure change occurring among employees? Well, you can always look at process compliance, right? So can you tell if folks are kind of complying to the new process that you've set up? Or are they using the system, right? At a minimum, typically systems, you can tell, are people logging in? What's their frequency? How long have they been in the system, right? Those are just some early, really quick indicators. Are folks starting to change behavior? You can look at, training attendance, right? Did folks come and attend your training? Personally, I feel like that's just a butts and seats measurement, and I like to look at testing their knowledge while in training, right? Are there some tests or assessments during that training course or certainly quickly following on that you can test their knowledge? Error rates or issues raised, right? So that's another way to indicate, are things going well or things going wrong? And what is your anticipation? Typically, after you implement something new, you are going to have maybe a short blip of increased errors with that learning curve, and then hopefully you see it go down really quickly because you're, right, you know what those errors are, you're getting back to people, maybe doing retraining, constant reminders on what to do. But that's one way to look at measuring change with employees. How can you measure the speed of adoption, right? Well, one easy way is you can look at, was the project completed on time, right? So if our whole premise is we've managed the change effectively, right? And that means, right, we're going to kind of shorten that time frame. To me, that means we're going to come in on time because usually if you don't manage it, people resist and it takes longer, right? So was it on time? That's an easy indicator. Site usage, again, for tools or systems. You can do some pre and post survey assessments. Believe it or not, again, this change curve is such a foundation